Good morning, Captain Curl with the Joint Base Charleston Fire Department. I was the investigating fire officer assigned to the fire event that occurred at the residence of 614 Mays Street and was responsible for the evidence collection that led to the charges currently being pursued against the homeowner. I intend to show the evidence collected was done so lawfully and according to policy without violating the constitutional rights of the homeowner based on the circumstances surrounding the search. As it is reported, firefighters made entry to the structure to perform firefighting operations. Upon entry into the structure, firefighters found heavy to moderate fire conditions in the living room area of the home. Once the fire had been extinguished and hazardous conditions inside the structure had been mitigated, I entered the structure to investigate the cause. The interior of the structure appeared to have been staged with old furniture, and broken television was placed in the location of the origin of the fire. Further investigation of the area of origin produced melted components of a device leading to a pour pattern of accelerant from the area of origin to the kitchen of the home. I collected the samples of the suspected accelerant and the melted remnants of the device for further analysis. These findings led to the allegations of arson being the cause of the fire. The argument against the unlawful search and seizure of these materials was based on the fact that the fire suppression crews had left the scene prior to my arrival and the subsequent investigation. However, the investigation was done within a reasonable time and has been a continuation of the original fire event. As a fire inspector, it is my duty to investigate the cause of origin of a fire, and in the spirit of performing that function, I entered the structure lawfully as a continuation of exigent circumstances to determine the cause, not to investigate the crime. The evidence that was obtained was done so per department policy, which requires any fire in the home or business to be investigated to determine the cause. The precedent set by Michigan versus Tyler indicates that exigent circumstances are not limited to active fire conditions. In the case of Tyler, the fire inspector arrived several hours after the fire suppression and overhaul operations had been concluded. The court stated official need no warrant to remain in a building for a reasonable time to investigate the cause of a blaze after it has been extinguished. The court held that early morning entries by the firefighters and the police detectives were simply a logical continuation of earlier entries. The case in question follows the same principle that my original entry to the home was a continuation of the fire event and not a separate occurrence. It is factual to state that in the event of a subsequent entry, the further investigation after the scene had been released back to the homeowner, anyone investigating the cause of fire would require a search warrant to enter the property. The collection of evidence in plain view during the initial investigation into the cause of fire does not violate the homeowner's constitutional rights. As this diagram of the home, Exhibit 1, which is attached, shows, the device and trail of accelerant were in plain sight of the firefighters engaged in suppression operations in view of the investigation without disturbing the scene or being more invasive than necessary to determine the fire's cause. Entry was made lawfully into the home under exigent circumstances in the nature of preventing loss of life and property. The investigation was done as a continuation in the same context as the original entry to suppress the fire. The event leading to the events leading to the departure of the fire suppression crews did not conclude the need for investigation to continue. It would be unreasonable to believe that firefighters on the scene should neglect another call for service to remain on scene for fire investigators. The time between the second response that led to their departure and my arrival to the investigation to investigate the cause of fire is a reasonable lapse of time. Thank you for your time.